listening to the Ball Talk podcast with me, Ryan Bailey. This podcast is brought to you by Adapt Athletic Performance and Therapy. Head over to Instagram and give them a follow at adapt_clinic. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe or follow button as well. Without further ado, let's get straight into the podcast. So this is episode number 63 of the Ball Talk podcast, as always brought to you by our sponsor, Adapt Athletic Performance and Therapy. The podcasts are back. We're back doing face-to-face, and today I am here upstairs in EJ Menswear in Sligo with the man himself, Eamon. How are you doing?
Ryan, great to be here.
Good
to have you back in EJ's.
Absolutely. Eamon, before we go into, as we spoke before the podcast, we're going to have a bit of a trip down memory lane with this podcast and talk about what the making of EJ and the making of EJ Menswear, so to say, as well.
Yeah.
But before we go into that, every day you walk in the door here, there's music pumping. There's always, you can get there's a good atmosphere in the shop always, and there's always a good atmosphere brought on by the music in the place as well.
Yeah.
And something that I ask everybody at the start of a podcast, if you've got a dream concert, so I'm giving you a golden ticket. It's EJ's dream concert, and you can have 3 acts, bands, solos. They could be dead or alive, whoever they may be. Who would be your 3, and what would be the location for it as well?
Oh God, at the minute through lockdown, I think we got our hands on a record player actually in the last while. I bought Eiling one for Mother's Day or whatever it was, but listened to a lot of the Highwaymen and Willie Nelson over the past while. I must say I've taken a huge liking to Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Always did like his music and that. Like I'm musical, but I wouldn't go out of my way to sit down and listen to music. But I find myself since the lockdown, maybe after doing a bit of exercise, have a shower, go in and listen to Willie Nelson, the Highwaymen. Great memories of live gigs in McGarrigles in Sligo. With Tabby. I think Sunday night in McGarrigles was just with the talent that would be there, Tabby on show and just blasting it out. Small crowd, but everyone jammed into it. Whether that'll ever happen again, used to love them. A few pints of Heineken, used to love that gig. Those Nervous Animals, local group that I kind of grew up with, they were big on the scene. My friend John would, I've great, every time I hear that song, it's good. There's lots. I love live music. So, but definitely at the moment, there's that bit of country, Willie Nelson, the Highwayman. I'd love to be going to a gig, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately. But
absolutely. And who's in control of the music here? So,
Mark, kind of, we have. There's probably not a day goes by when I'm serving someone and someone would say, a customer would comment on our music. It's unreal. Like and you could get some days you look down the shop and there's someone, just dancing away to themselves. A lot of their old classic hits. Mark, my own son, put them all together. We've added bits, taken out bits, but generally it's all classic, young people, old people. There's a great feel to it, great sound. It's upbeat, but it works really, really well. And there's no doubt, you're right in what you say. The music is, it's a regular comment. I'd say there's not a day goes by, but people would comment on the music that we're playing and the quality of music. Yeah,
let's go back. So as I was saying beforehand, to day dot of EJ Menswear, and even going back, even further back than that, your first job. Can you remember what your first job was?
My first job was in a chipper. I'd say I was 15. I used to peel spuds out the back in the mid depths of the winter. I just awful bad memories of it. My hands falling off me with the cold, and trying to peel the spuds, and 2 big lumps of Alsatians looking at me. There's a chipper on High Street there. At Luke Filan, Shane Filan's uncle actually would have been. He owned the chipper, so I worked in there. That was short-lived. Had a few little odd jobs, but when I was 18, I started in Horan's Menswear 1978, that was my first real job.
Okay.
My parents applied for it. I actually had no interest. The last thing I ever see myself being was a salesman, and certainly in a classic menswear store that you had to wear a suit into work and you had to wear a tie, which I actually remember being traumatized for at least the first 2 years of working in Horns Menswear. If any of the lads, I was used to going around in the jeans and the Doc Martens and whatever, but I grew up in Dorley Park, so I was a townie. So townies didn't wear suits then. Right. So I got the job in Horns, and I actually hid myself out the way for a couple of years. I just hated it, really. I hated what I had to wear, and I had to dress up and that. But I gradually grew into it. I certainly, when I say my parents got me the job, it's the truth. I kind of, was a little bit, wasn't a dosser, I'd say. I would have worked, but they applied for the job in Horns for me, and told me, look, there's a job going. So I went in and done an interview with Karen Horn, and I had a bad stammer, like growing up, and I certainly didn't see myself becoming a salesman. It genuinely was, I hated it, I have to say. But then, with time, and I learned, it's, I still have that, at times, even chatting to you here now, kind of, you might have to stop the odd time and but I've learned, to deal with the stammer and that, and it became, I was good at what I was doing, or I got good in what I was doing, so it gave me that little, in sales, in Horns, and I made a good connection with people. People felt sorry for me because I had a stammer, maybe, but it gave me a bit of confidence, and I kind of over time, over a long time, I never mastered it 100%, but it just, it built on me confidence, and I eventually got to love what I was doing. So definitely for the first 2-3 years, it was torture. And I remember ordering, when I go out on the shop floor, I'd have to do an order for Farah trousers, we'll say. And, I'd sit on the phone, and it took me an hour, I'd say, the poor old devil on the other end of the phone, listening to me stammering over the phone, giving him these orders. And an awful problem with the 30s. I couldn't get it out, and nearly every waist size is a 30. So that was a problem. But I stuck with it, like I seen through it, and it kind of, it made, it kind of certainly, it developed me into, I became competitive, and I wanted, to get through it, and eventually it certainly is not something that I look back with, that of any, ill fate, I kind of, it's been a positive thing for me, but it went from there. I started in 78, so that time you became a trainee. Okay, yes. So you actually, maybe 2 or 3 years before I started, you nearly had to pay to get a job. That was back in the late 70s, you paid to get your training. So I was an apprentice for 3 years. I got very, very little money, I must say. £15 a week it was. I remember getting a rise to £15 a week. No, it's all relevant, but I went from that, moved up, became a bit of a buyer in Horns, had a good interest in it. I could put clothes together and, matching up, and, people had developed a customer base with myself, building my own customer base. Became a manager. Kieran Horn opened a casual menswear store, and I ran that for him. It was called Fifth Gear, and so that gave me, it was all confidence building, really. And I went from that. That was very successful, and
in Fifth Gear.
Pardon?
In Fifth Gear.
Fifth Gear, yeah. So I ran that well. That was up at Market Street, and Kieran Horn bought the shop next door to where Horns Menswear now was in Castle Street, and it was bigger again, and that was a great experience, and it was doing great business. So I was that brought me up to my mid-30s really when I opened my own shop. But I had you know, the training in Horns, and Kieran Horn, he was a tough man to work for. That in them times, you know, the worker was, you know, you were a worker. You done your, you know, it was really, really tough going.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from him because I watched him and listened to him and a lot. But you know, you were never idle, never you earned your crust, you know. But again, I take that as a total positive. Like, I got brilliant training,
yeah.
You know.
And just
training, right?
what I found interesting there, maybe I'm looking too deep into this now, but the turn from not, like I said, not seeing yourself going into the salesman trade, and as you said, you had a stammer, and then you're able to kind of overcome that barrier in a way through that trade.
Yeah, yeah.
Did being a salesman and working in fashion, did that help and overcome your stammer? Did that develop the grow for it then? And you were kind of like, well, if this has helped me with this, I might as well stick at it. Yeah,
absolutely. It was, you know, it was all confidence. Like, you know, every time, you know, I learned to kind of master it, you know, through, you know, like as I'm chatting to you now, and nearly, you know, I'm seeing the sentence, you know, picking the words that I can say. Like
I get you.
I've learned that over years, and it's, you know, the more, I don't think if I didn't become a salesman, I mightn't be as far on as I am now, as like with dealing with it, you know, because, you know, I had to learn how to talk properly.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that was, I remember being at school and not able to, like, going into a class, and the fear of being asked to read out a paragraph out of a book, it was just, I just wanted a class that was like horrendous. You know, so I went from that to being a salesman, but it built on my confidence. Played a lot of football as well, and I found, you know, sport, you know, it's all about confidence building, no matter what you're doing. And, you know, sport, I was half decent. I enjoyed, you know, I was at it like junior soccer level, and played for Sligo Rovers reserves. That was it. Have 2 Connacht junior cup medals, have a Connacht senior cup medal, but that built on the confidence as well. So but certainly, it was all about confidence building. I just needed, you know, I was coming from a very, very low, you know, when I was 17, 18 in my teens, very, very low confidence level, and I just had to build it up. You know, that's the way it was. And the rag trade and being a salesman has, you know, it's not something I would have talked about, you know, ever, maybe only in the past while, like, but, you know, the rag trade has certainly developed me, you know, to be a better speaker, and that there's no doubt about it.
So we're just looking on Fifth Gear then. So you were, so as you said, Horns bought Fifth Gear and you were running for them.
Yeah.
And then going from there to open up your own shop then.
Yeah, yeah.
When did that, like, what was the decision behind that?
I had a great trainer apart from Kieran Horn in Horns, Joe McCann. Joe passed away there a few years back, but Joe, a great Bunanad man. But you know, Joe had moved and opened his own business, so that was in the early 90s. Joe might have been late 80s when he opened, but I was hitting my mid-30s. It's true what to say, I'm 30-something, when you hit that age, you kind of think, what am I going to do with my life? I had a young family, 3 young kids at that stage, and I was 33, 34. You know, I just to get myself over the line to do that, the confidence to do it. It was in the back of my mind, but I kind of had an experience. I'd say I went on lunch in Horns one day. It was late 93. And just a wee small shop at the bottom of Market Street. Vincent Carty was in there. He was a friend of mine that I grew up with, right? Okay. And he was putting down a new floor in it. And only for I knew him, I mightn't even have went in. But I went in. So Vincey had a bit of a chat. Said, "What you do?" And he said, "I'm doing this up for the landlord." And I said, "Jeez, I just, you know, I got a great feeling about it. You know, something that never happened to me before." It was like opening a door into a new life. Like, I just said, "Look, this is it." You know, I just knew it straight away. It was total gut instinct, and I was chatting a bit. I got the landlord's address, phone number, rang him, done a deal with him, and I opened in April 94, 21st of April 94, and it was only a tiny little, not much bigger than this room we're in. The rent was low, great kind of second division location. It was just off Grattan Street, Cal Street, but it was only, it was, it gave me the start. I hadn't a penny to my name, and I just worked with suppliers and they gave me good credit. The people I had developed a good relationship for. Banks wouldn't give me any money, couldn't get a loan. So I kind of built up the business for the first 6 months on the credit that I got from the people that I was dealing with. And it gave me a good cash flow. So I was buying stock. I was going up and down to Dublin every Sunday when it was closed, on the train or in the escort, up and down to Dublin, buying the stock, bringing it home, selling it. The same year I opened, Rovers won the Cup that year in 94. So told the lads, the boys had got the suits from Horns, but they got the waistcoat of me, and it was great. So I had all the Rovers team. There were great, high profile people coming into the shop. Gave me a great start.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, that's where it started in 94, and it kind of haven't looked back.
Yeah.
Since.
Just a room, as you said, a room no bigger than this. And you said, so your mate was in, laying the floor. It was just a bare premises, was it?
It was a bare premises.
And you just saw it.
Yeah. And
the light bulb went off.
I seen it, I can't explain it. I do often try and, I just, for the first time in my life, I had the confidence to, I knew, it's a total gut instinct. I walked into it and Vincy told me, he said, we're doing this. So I just knew it. This is it, and like that's happened me a few times since, like maybe buying the bank here or whatever. I just, I could, all of a sudden I could back myself. And I backed myself and I went in and I had a great little business there, It was only paying €135 a week. That was pounds at the time, I think, rent. And the rates were €500 a year. That was it. I worked in it myself for a good while. Wasn't even a bathroom in it. I had many close encounters until we got busy enough. Then young Trevor Melly was the first employee I had, and he came in on a Friday or Saturday. So that's it. I built it, from there. From there, and like 7 years later, I bought the bank, bought the property that we're in there. So obviously, it developed into we had a move in the meantime across the road into a bigger premises. We used to be a ladies' store, Focus, just beside Shoot the Crows, not right next door, but next door to that, where we have our ladies' store now at the minute.
Yes.
That's where I moved into a bigger store. And that was after 3 years trading in the small shop. That was 97. So, and traded well there. Developed into the suit department we had upstairs, so we developed a little bit extra, brought in the suiting, so we started catering for weddings. EJ's, when we started, was essential jeanswear. It was all jeans was built on jeanswear, but we had the space then, started doing weddings and that, and it developed from that. And in 2001 then, it was only 7 years from when I opened, we bought the bank. 2 weeks after 9/11, that's another day's work. Another long story, Ryan.
Yeah.
So
you have 94, you can't get a loan off the bank. So 7 years later you say, I'm going to buy the
bank. Oh, they wouldn't give me. I went to 2 banks actually, and they wouldn't give me. The day I opened, I had nothing in the bank, and I probably didn't know what an overdraft was, I wasn't that naive, but at that time, the banks were tough, and it was coming out of a recession. The early 90s, it was, the late 80s, it was really, really tough time. So I got in at a good time, but the banks, I didn't have any money, So, 7 years later, I'd often think of that it was a huge achievement to go from that, to be able to buy the bank. I always thought, paying rent, that I kept putting away money every week, or was fairly thrifty, watching what I was doing, with the view of someday that I'd buy my own property, because I hated the fact of paying big rent, and so that was little did I know that it would be the Bank of Ireland.
Yeah. So you said, 94 you open your own shop. Was it Essential Jeanswear from then?
Essential Jeanswear. Yeah.
And is EJ is your initial? So
Eamon Joseph. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So so they just went hand in hand.
They went hand in hand. I had a dream one night, and that's when I woke up with Essential Jeanswear.
Oh, so it came to you in a dream.
Yeah, it kind of. Yeah, I would do a lot of. The boys reckon I spend a lot of time in bed, so I would do a lot of thinking in the bed. Like I'd have half a day's work in the bed done in the morning, thinking about what I'm going to do. But Essential Jeanswear was kind of. It was catchy, and we still have the sign down there. You'll see it on the way up as you come into our suit department. We're putting together a collage of old photographs, that we'd have that things that happened around the place over the years. So you can see I have the original sign and different things that we done.
Yeah.
7 years, Ryan. Yeah, it was. Yeah, a lot happened within them 7 years, but at the same time, looking back, it just flew by.
Yeah. You're saying how when you went into where you got your first premises, you knew when you walked in the door that as I said to you, the light bulb went off.
Yeah.
Was buying the bank? Could you see the bank from a few years beforehand as being like, geez, that would be a serious place to go into?
Like never, because at that time the banks were cutting back, and I remember the advertisement. We have it framed outside on the stairs. Actually, the advertisement in the Sligo Champion. When it appeared in the paper, and I had the champion, and it was over in EJ's, and we looked at the back page, and I said to one of the staff, I said, I'm going to buy that, right? When I seen it, and that it was tongue in cheek in a way, but being me, kind of in my own head, I said, I'm going to give this a damn good go, So we looked at it and went to the banks, and believe it, after 7 years, 7 years earlier, banks wouldn't give me a loan. 7 years later, to buy the Bank of Ireland, I had two banks fighting to give me the loan. I had a choice of two banks to give me a loan, okay? So, but previous to that, it was out of my league, the money I could go so far. It was for tender. It was 2 weeks after 9/11.
Yes.
So, tender date, I think it's the 19th of September, was about, whatever it was after 9/11. So I bought. They were guiding over 2 million. I couldn't go there. I didn't have that kind of money or anywhere near it. 9/11 happened. There was huge interest in it. Huge interest. A lot of people backed out. A lot of bigger boys than me at the time.
Okay.
Because there was, everyone was talking about the world wars. It was an awful. I'll never forget that day when it did happen. Little did I know. When I was looking at it in the shop in EJ's, where we moved to the events, we watched it live on telly in EJ's, and it was the scariest feeling I've ever had in my life. But little did I know that event on the telly was going to hit me by the Bank of Ireland.
Yeah.
But the price just came way down.
Yeah. And when you were saying the big boys pulled out, did it cross your mind that... Did the same thing cross your mind as well? Or were you
No, I knew what I could, no more than the first day I opened that door, and I knew what I could do with it. I backed myself 100%. People thought, J.D. Mack, this man is mad, How was he going to turn it into a clothes shop, maybe, number one? The window was unusual. I could see that was a great selling point, but for me, I knew what I could do with it. I kind of 100% back myself, 100%. And so the price just came way down, and I put a bid on it. It was for tender, and I changed it again, and the bank manager said, "Oh, you're going too high, Eamon." And there was a lot, I changed my bid on the final day. I was in Dublin, and I rang bank, and I told him we need to go a bit more, so up the bid on the last day. Fast forward a few days, I had a bit of an ear problem. Okay. So I was after a major operation on my ear, lying in the bed in the Eye and Ear Hospital in Dublin the day after, and George Draper rang me and he said, Eamon, look, you're nearly there with this, will you go a bit extra? Which George was the auctioneer. Maybe he shouldn't have done, because a tender is a tender, whatever you offer, that's it.
Yeah.
I think George, being George, fair play to him, was trying to get a little bit extra out of me anyway. So I said, fair enough. A small bit extra, and he said, rang me back. He said, Eamon, congrats, you're now the proud owner of the Bank of Ireland. Then I started to doubt myself. Then I started to shiver and shake. I said, what about, just the nerves for, just a little bit. I wanted it. And then when it happened, I thought, oh man, and that was, pull it down to the anaesthetic wearing off or whatever. It was nerves. And, I was so proud of buying it, He told me, Dad, I'll never forget. He just actually, I was recovering from, I gave him the Champion. It was in the Champion, the front page, and I says, look at that. And he read it. But Dad would have been a really conservative man, even when he backed me all the way when I opened my own shop. He would, you'd hear, I had visions of him saying, oh, why don't you stay where you are? It's a good, safe job. But he didn't back me all the way. So I remember him reading the paper, and God, he was a proud man, reading that. So it was, it was great. It was great. Still trying to pay for it, Ryan, but it's there's been a lot of ups and downs since that. But it's been a great experience, and it took us a year to develop it. Once we bought it, one of the attractions that a lot of people didn't like was the bank were staying upstairs where we are now.
Yes.
And they were renting that, but I seen that as it helped me with the mortgage, for the first year or two.
How long were they
they stayed in the office maybe for 2 years, but they had an ATM one side of the door. That was busiest ATM in the town. And a lot of people didn't like that idea, that you had a Bank of Ireland ATM in your shop. We put an entrance into the shop from it. So we had hundreds and hundreds of people coming into that ATM day and night, and we had a window into our shop. So during the day, people could just walk into the shop from the ATM. Yeah. So they were all pluses that I seen, that eventually they cut back on their ATMs and we extended the store. But everything that happened just gave me a great chance to, cash flow, and, it was a tough time. Yeah. Really, really tough time. So.
Yeah, because when people look at, especially social media, because you've got a very big presence, definitely nationally and internationally as well, on social media, whether it be videos of yourself or like some of the staff and that talking, and people can see the bright and rosy side of things. Yeah. But you said there's been a lot of ups and downs. Yeah. But at the same time, you've managed to stick through what 20 years now in September since you're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or since you've had the premises, anyways. Yeah. And then, talk to me about how you get through the times where, when the country hits the recession and stuff like that.
Yeah. I have 2007. I made a fatal mistake we opened a Tommy Hilfiger store in 2007. Invested a serious amount of money around the corner in O'Connell Street. Invested, I wouldn't like to say what I invested in it. It opened the month. In retail, you could see the recession coming that year. You could see it. Everything just started to go quiet, from a boom. And retail is the first, you could see it straight away. Everyone was saying that ERSI were saying, oh no, it's going to be a soft landing. You could see it. It was just, the lights went out around October 2007. We opened the Tommy Hilfiger store. Biggest mistake I ever made, because I kind of, not in a greedy sort of way, more of we had a huge business with Tommy Hilfiger as a brand, and they were opening the franchise store in Sligo. So I had the fear of it damaging my own business. That's why I went for it and took it. Instead of, when I should have backed myself that we would come, this store coming in was a big threat to EJ's, I thought, because Tommy Hilfiger was our number one brand. So I never had a good gut feeling about that, but I still went and done it. That was a huge mistake. And it was more not backing ourselves to come through it. And the Tommy Hilfiger store, after a few years, we had to close it down. And what happened. There was a terrible recession for 7-8 years, and EJ survived it. So really, and the money we borrowed, and it was like, if someone had said to you in 2007, you have 10 years of this ahead of you, you would have thrown in the towel. It was that bad. You were kind of getting up out of bed every morning. It was like going to battle. Really, that's the way I looked at it. It was you were going down that road and you were going in. You did not know what was coming at you during the day. No customers. We had 2 horrendous winters in 2009, 2010. From November to the end of December, both years. Christmases were terrible. Christmas used to save you in the rag trade, you know.
Yeah.
Every Christmas gave you a great bounce. That didn't happen. It was actually, you know, how we got through it. We sat, you know, we had staff meetings and we sat and we chatted about it. We said, lads, you know, I love the business, you know, and they always enjoyed it. And this was, I said, look, we're going to fight our way out of this and we're going to enjoy it. You know, I can still just remember sitting around the table. So we just attacked the business. So we were getting advertising for nothing. We were getting full pages in regional papers for nothing. We were getting radio ads for nothing. Everyone was on their knees. They just wanted to get some sort of cash flow in. So we started advertising in Donegal, Roscommon, Mayo, surrounding areas, and we were virtually, I won't say nothing, but much cheaper than what it would have cost us, you know, pre-recession. So we pushed the name out there, you know, via at that time social media wasn't there, you know, via radio and print, you know, advertising in newspapers, and we were getting that message out there. Social media was maybe brought us out of the recession in 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
But them 7 years were actually, you know, there was a lot bigger businesses than EJ's Menswear went to the wall. And it was a scrap, it was a battle, but I didn't give up on it, you know.
Yeah. And like it's a big down point in the country, and for a retailer like yourselves as well, it is.
Yeah.
But even if you were to find any silver lining in it, in terms of like the staff and that togetherness, if you can do it in the bad times, you can do it in the good times. Well, when I say the good times, when times are better, you can work it too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's absolute. That's what's got us through this time. Our memory, the vivid memory that we have. A lot of the staff are still here. The vivid memory that we have of that bad time, the recession, and how we got through it. You know, no one ever seen a pandemic coming, you know.
Yeah.
But it's so fresh in our minds, even though it's 10 years ago, you know. You know, we were in the depths of it, that recession, but we didn't come out of it around 2014, 15, but it was still what we had to do. We knew what we had to do, and our brand name was out there, you know. Then social media came on the scene, you know. So that was another opportunity to push our brand name out there, and we embraced that. I think our first video was, I could be wrong, but it was around 2000 our first video on Facebook, 2014, I think.
Yeah.
And that's not long ago, you know. I cut up, we had a half price sale, and I stood with a sign with half price written on it, with a chainsaw, and I cut down through it, and it blabbered out something, and that was our first video, and that brought us the social media attention, you know.
Yeah.
So
doing the videos on social media, because there was a while there, I'd say, you know, for a year or two, definitely there was videos of you out on a horse in the street, and you had different like skits going as well. Thinking, what's EJ going to do next?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that? And even the idea of when someone said to you the first day, I don't know who it may have been, the shop, they said, look, we're going to get you to do a video.
Yeah.
Did you think, geez, you're a bit mad, or could you see the benefits of it?
Yeah, no, I kind of, you know, I look back on it, and you know, people really took to them, and they were funny. I think I never enjoyed it because of, you know, that nervousness, you know, that I had doing it, that is still there when I have to talk and that, you know, and you know, when it's pre-planned, it's worse, you know. So I found it really, really hard. But we had to do something to survive. It was pure survival. I still to this day, I find them very hard. But people probably could see that I was just doing my best. I think that's, you know, we were all trying to do our best. And you know, if I made a mistake, I didn't mind. You know, I was doing my best, and people embraced that. And I think they could see the genuine someone who was a terrible actor, not a bit, just genuinely trying to survive, you know, and run a business. And you know, I think a big part of EJ's videos is they're so bad, they're good, really. You know, that's the way I look at them. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I just, you know.
It's off the cuff.
It's totally off the cuff. And trying to find the right word for me could have been very hard. and I'd stumbled a lot, but I got there with them, and the people, our followers started to grow, right? So now we have over 100,000 people follow us on social media. We've heading towards 90,000 on Facebook. And we have 110,000, and we have a huge reach, and people really buy into it, and we have people coming from all around the country now into EJ's to meet Wezo, who's a big fat star of our Instagram pages. Yeah. Mark Halton, who runs our marketing manager, doing a great job at it. Everyone's sporty in the place. Mark is sporty. We have, we pick up on world events like now the Euros are on at the minute, so we're having good fun with that. We have great competitions. The people are coming not to meet just EJ, but to meet the staff, because the staffs all of a sudden are known to the people, feel as if they know them,
Get you, yeah.
And the boys are all genuine and they're all good. Like, we have a great brand here, and with not blowing me trumpet by one little bit when I say it, but I couldn't do what I'm doing if I couldn't back it up. And that's what helped me to do all the videos and to do everything that I've done on social media, because I knew I've 100% confidence in the brand that we have, the store that we have, and more importantly, the staff that we have. I knew I could back up everything I was saying. I couldn't have done what I was doing if at the back of my head I knew people would be disappointed when they come in. I knew we had a great product to shout about, that worked really well.
Yeah. Talk about people coming from around the country to come in into the shop, and we've seen, the Conor McGregors to Nathan Carter, the Seamus Coleman coming into the place. Yeah. Going back to the mid-90s and that first shop you had from 94 to 97 and from 97 to 2001 as well. Was there anyone that came in, or is there one memory you have of someone coming to the shop there that you're like, geez, if this fella's coming in, I'm doing something right here?
Yeah, well, I kind of... Nicky Butt, who was kind of playing for Man United at the time, he was over at a supporters club, Man United Supporters Club. That was the second shop we moved into. And Nicky, Eddie Gray brought him into me because he was stuck for a shirt. Yeah. So he came down to EJ's. And, at that time we had, I didn't even take a picture of him, I don't think. But I remember him coming in, and he was a gent, and he actually spent, he paid me in sterling. I charged him. But he paid me in sterling, and he had no problem paying me, but I'm sorry, I always regret him not getting him to sign it and just keeping it. That time, there would have been, I remember Jimmy Buckley, Country and Western, coming in to buy a suit of me. Yeah. Suits were opening the shop for him one evening. That's, back in more than 20 years ago. Jimmy was, and still is, a big, going well in the country and scene. People like that, McGregor came in because he was doing a gig in Sligo, a promotional gig, before he had his first big fight, and he knew one of the lads, and he asked one of the lads, would he mind if he came in? And he came in that night, and we were featuring on a TV show. I couldn't be there because of this TV show. I had to stay out of the way. It was Nora Casey, The Takeover, that Hilfiger store we were going through. But, McGregor, and of course McGregor hit it big. We had the video, we still use it. But everyone's a celebrity coming into EJ's. It's kind of, they're treated no different. Everyone coming in is, no one gets, like a lad that, we have a lot, there's some great lads and coming into EJ's, and a lot of them come in as customers, we make that link and make the connection with them. But we just, that fact that they're backing us, it gives us pride to be, we just filled out Kevin Doyle there for the Euros. Yeah, and it was great to see that, wearing their suits on the telly and things like that. It's kind of, we're competitive as well. Like, we're running a business, and at the end of the day, we have to survive, and our business now, there's so many things going on around our business that it just has to be busy. But we enjoy it. You enjoy driving it on.
And I think that wraps it up. We could be going on. We could do another hour of this, but I'm sure we'll get another day where we can chat about other stuff and that. But thanks a million for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant, Ryan. Good to chat to you. Yeah, perfect. Got a few things off me chest. Thanks, Ryan.
No bother at all.
Okay.